Don't call me a casual for this, but I'm happy that the finals is over. Now, I'm not saying this to say that the Nuggets aren't that good or that anyone is undeserving. This is one of the most dominant showings since the 2017 Warriors, when they lost only one game on the road to their championship. And that team had 4 guys who will be Hall of Famers, were all All-Stars that year. Draymond was Defensive Player of the Year that year. And Curry, KD, and Green were on all NBA teams. Nuggets have one main guy, and that's Nikola Jokic. And just reading his stats will have you in awe. He averaged 30 points a game, 13.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block on 55% field goal percentage, 46% from 3, 80% from the line, and like 59, almost 60% efficient field goal percentage. I was talking with my brother on the way to graduation, and he said to me that he hasn't seen a big man this dominant since Shaq and Tim Duncan, and Duncan wasn't shooting like Jokic, and Shaq wasn't passing like him. He led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists, being the only player in NBA in playoff history at least to get at least 500 points. He had 600, 200 rebounds, he had 269, and 100 assists. He had 190. And he has the most triple doubles in playoff history, passing Wilt. He put up 30, 20, and 10 in a finals game, being the only player to do that. This shows that Jokic's dominance is not only crunching advanced numbers and using obscure stats that nobody really truly cares or even knows about. It's the raw numbers from a player who has taken the title of best in the NBA. Him and Jamal Murray are the only duo to have a triple-double each in a finals game. In the same game, Jamal Murray was amazing in these playoffs. He had 4 separate fourth quarters with 20 points or more, which was an NBA record previously held by Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson, who had each 2. Jamal averaged 26, 7, and 6 during the playoffs. The support that this team had from guys like MPJ being the shooter, Aaron Gordon being this team's Draymond Green, or sometimes this team's Sean Marion, Bruce Brown and Christian Brown being stable scorers and defenders off the bench who just gave energy. Or sometimes the shot wasn't falling, or sometimes the offense was just that good. They would just come in and bring energy. Jeff Green and KCP providing that veteran stability on and off the court with Mike Malone's coaching. This team can be dominant for a while, especially for an NBA that doesn't have a team that is the team to be going into this decade. Okay, honestly, after recent news, that changed, but that's a different video. Like, I truly can see, even with the news that recently came out, there's no stopping this Nuggets team from getting like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 championships over the next 6 to 7 years. They've proven as such, okay, maybe not 3, but at least 1 and 2. They've proven as such as the fact that they're patient with their core 2 guys and committed to development. Jokic and Murray weren't the players that they are now 4 or 5 years ago, and it would have been easy to move on, especially since teams are retooling and rebuilding damn near every 4 to 5 years. On top of that, with now winning, they can now just commit to building for the team's needs each season through draft picks. They drafted Jokic, Murray, Christian Brown, and MPJ, and or through smart signings. They signed Bruce Brown, they signed Jeff Green, or making smart trades with the assets that they got from picks. They traded for Gordon using Gary Harris, and they traded KCP using Monte Morris. And they drafted both Morris and Harris. And I think for Monte, they drafted him in like the 2nd round, like the 51st pick or something. The team has mastered the long game in a league that are pushing to contend as fast as possible. And it paid off with a ring and potentially more as the West is open. Even going to next year, they are the favorites. Okay, like I said, recent news have changed some things, but is that Suns team better than the Nuggets? I'll let you decide. The Suns have a shot, don't get it wrong, but they need to overhaul their depth badly. The Lakers have a shot, but they have to have a strategic summer on their own hands. The Clippers have a shot, but they've yet to have a healthy season with their 2 stars since 2021. And Nuggets just have to be themselves and do what they've been doing to get back to the finals and get back to another championship. However, I can't be the only one to think that after game 3, I stopped caring about this. Look, call me a casual, but there's a reason why many people call these finals boring. Even though the playoff ratings, like the overall playoff ratings, were really good, the finals ratings were a decline from last year. And it's not like everyone is a casual that hates basketball outside of highlights and Jokic, but in the sense of the mainstream sports media, which controls and dominates a lot of how people interact with basketball, we saw the same teams make the 2020 conference finals, meaning we could have gotten another installment of the most storied rivalries in basketball and top 5 or top 10 rivalries in sports. The pursuit of Tatum and Brown breaking the glass ceiling as a core and getting that elusive ring, and LeBron in its pursuit for ring number 5. Is it surprising that the media and an extension a big portion of NBA fans were more interested in seeing the two most recognizable teams versus two teams that the majority of NBA fans don't watch that much? Because yeah, they have players that unless you like that individual player or a fan of that team, you probably don't care much about Jimmy Butler or Nikola Jokic or any of that team supporting cast. The NBA only had Miami, who were a first seed in the East in 2022, at 22 national TV games, and had the Nuggets, who had the reigning back-to-back MVP, at 28 national TV games. That's not low numbers by any stretch of the imagination, but the Nuggets had less TV games than the Mavericks, Celtics, Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, Bucks, Sixers, Suns, and the Nuggets had as many TV games as the Grizzlies. The Heat had the same problem, however they had even less TV games than the Brooklyn Nets. This is important because if you don't have League Pass or you don't use shiesty methods to watch games, you're pretty much missing out like 65% of the NBA and only keep focus on the same 5 to 8 teams that dominate the TV schedule and dominate the TV storylines. For the playoffs, this is probably why for the first time many fans had to tune into a Nuggets or Heat game all year. Why would the mainstream or even internet basketball spaces take notice of teams or players if most of the league's fans don't have any interest or can't even watch them? Another aspect to keep it to basketball some way is that this was a lopsided series from rip. You had the Nuggets, who are fresh, they're healthy, they only lost 3 games up to that point, going up against that undersized, sort of hurting team that was just playing in a game 7 like 48 hours prior to game 1. Seeing a team simply beat up a lesser opponent for 5 games doesn't sound like riveting TV, especially, and it's even worse when you simply have little care about the players on the court. And yes, that includes Jokic. Jokic is a 2-time MVP and now NBA champion and Finals MVP, but his game, unless you're super into semi-slow big men who aren't entirely flashy, or you're into analytics, or you're just into passing like that, his game is just not that exciting. He's not an aggressive scorer by default, and he's not overly or aesthetically athletic. He plays angles, which has a certain type of charm to it, just like his personality, but in the age of social media, where more fans are watching the games through these 1 to 2 minute intervals along or in substitution to watching the full game, and also watching the media landscapes like the ESPNs and the Fox Sports 1s of the world, he's not on, he's just simply, it's slow moving. Trust me, I mess with Jokic, but if I had to choose a player to watch live, he's on the list. He just ain't 1, 2, or 3. And when we're talking about the face of the league, and you want that out of the potential face of the league, the thing that made other past best players in the league so special to watch is that you would rush to watch their games. I can't say the same about Nikola Jokic. Also, to be honest, although the story of the second round pick being drafted while a commercial was running to being the best player in the world is a very easy sellable story to anyone, Jokic has already won a lot so fast in his time as being the Jokic we know. It also doesn't gauge fan interest when one team has been seen as corny as of late and the other one have the emotional spectrum of vanilla ice cream. It's not surprising that all through the playoffs that have had amazing ratings, that the finals couldn't even compete with last year's finals. I already know someone in the comments is going to say, oh, I don't care about the story, I care about the basketball. And me too, bro. Me too. I watch everything. I watch the NBA, WNBA, high school, college. If there's basketball to be watched, I'm watching. But I keep using the word story because basketball, like sports, is a story with all the pillars of story. There's introduction, rising actions, climax, fallout, resolution, the ending, the characters, the emotion. That's what drives us to care about this otherwise game that we wouldn't be watching without it. I remember Nick Wright making a video saying that there's a reason his show on FS1 doesn't talk about the Jokic or the Nuggets, and it's because nobody truly cares about them. And they don't do any numbers, which is why they don't get discussed. Was he being a jackass about it? Yes. But was he wrong? No. Look at the engagement from Overtime or Bleacher Report when they post about Jokic or Jimmy Butler or Murray or Hero or any like star that's not playing in a smaller franchise. Like think of like SGA, or think of someone like, I don't know, Trae Young. And then now look at the engagement when they post LeBron or Curry or Giannis and yes, Embiid. People have more interest in those players, and a big reason is because we have invested into their story and their careers. We've seen the successes, we've seen the failures, we've seen the public love and hate them. Certain players drive the mantle of being players that fans can get behind. Even if you don't truly understand the game just yet, you can understand the story that comes with it. Now tell me this, what is the story that the Nuggets or the Heat have that fans are unfamiliar with either team can get behind? The reason fans have no interest in these finals is because we have no overarching story that tied the basketball and the fan together long enough. It was basically two random teams that now you just have to care about with the star power that was at best. I'm talking like superstar power, because like I've always said, being a superstar in the NBA is more than just being great at basketball. There's been plenty of great basketball players, and there's been plenty of great teams that are not like the main teams that we are constantly in rotation, but there's a reason why we don't talk about them as much. You just don't care about them as much. If you truly didn't grow up playing basketball or come from a basketball environment, you may not know what's going on in the court like 60% of the time. So you build your favorite players and your favorite teams based off what the league deems as the face of the league and the most important storylines going in. Tell me this, what was more talked about, the Nuggets winning the NBA championship or Ja Morant's impending suspension? The Nuggets parade or potential or now real Bradley Beal trade? There's a reason why Jokic won his first MVP and NBA didn't even schedule the Nuggets for Christmas. They didn't have the MVP on Christmas. One of the few times in the NBA where all the fans, diehards and casuals, are watching, and casual fans and casual audiences make up a majority of what most successful businesses are. So is it surprising that fans just have no attachment to Jokic, a guy that relatively seems like he doesn't really bother with wanting to be the face of any type of league? Is it? I say all that to say that moving forward, that the NBA and the NBA sports media needs to do a better job at showcasing the talent to all fans, not just diehards, because diehards are always going to watch. Like if you're watching a video like this, you're probably a diehard fan. You probably are a super fan of basketball, which is respectful. I am too, but most people just don't have lives like that where they can commit to watching a lot of basketball and following a lot of pages and watching YouTube videos and podcasts, listening to podcasts about basketball players. Some people just don't got time for all that. So it is important that the NBA, and now that the NBA, especially now that has more talent than any other generation before it, but only focus on the same 10-15 guys, and in an NBA that has seen 5 different finals matchups in the last 5 years. It's about time we get started on highlighting the stars across the leagues so more fans have more of an understanding of what's out there, because the media has an importance of not only shaping what we talk about, but shaping how fans engage with the sport. You know, I've always heard this kind of thing that, you know, like NBA has dumb coverage of its sport, and it's because for the most part, we don't really talk about any of the other guys. Like, how many people would know that Trae Young was averaging almost like 30 and 11 this year? He was averaging like 28 a game and nobody was talking about it. Also, as I was editing this video, another thing to point out is like the Sacramento Kings were one of the best teams in the NBA. They had the #1 offense in the NBA in a league that had a big boom in offense. Like we had the most players average 30. And the Kings were the #1 offense in the league. De'Aaron Fox had an incredible year. He should have been an all-star this year. Sabonis was an all-star this year. We saw a big surgence of Kevin Huerter showing that he could be a starter in this league. Malik Monk had an incredible year, especially in incredible playoffs. And Davion Mitchell made more strides into becoming the player that a lot of people that were following the draft thought he could be. But how many times did you hear about the Sacramento Kings this year? How many times were people just blindly taking the Warriors in the series just because they're the team that you heard of? Now, I'm not saying that because you took the Warriors, you're a casual. I'm not saying that, because I took the Warriors in my personal bracket. I had Warriors in 7. My people thought the Warriors were going to sweep them. People thought the Warriors were going to win in 5. No, they weren't. But remember, people had the reputation of the Kings rather than the reality, and that's also because a lot of sports pages, mainstream and on the internet, weren't really not a lot of thought or coverage of the Kings. So that's just another tidbit to put in there. Sucks is that both the Heat and the Nuggets have amazing stories that makes the Heat finals run even more impressive and the Nuggets championship that much happier. The Heat have beat a 1 seed, a surging Knicks team, and the Celtics that were seen as favorites in the East. Jimmy Butler had, I would say, one of the most impressive playoff runs in the last 10 years. I remember watching Gabe Vincent in the Bay Area's finest days and loved his story representing Nigeria in FIBA. Or I think it was the Olympics or FIBA. Caleb Martin getting an opportunity. I've been watching him and his brother since his days at Nevada. I saw the run. Kyle Lowry will always be important to my experience as a fan. I'm a Raptors fan, so seeing him on that stage making winning plays, that was important to me. I love that. Bam showing that he's a premier top 25 player in the league. And finally, I'm happy that some of these guys on the Nuggets have rings. Jokic has had one of the best 3-year runs you can ask for. A 3-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, 2-time MVP, NBA champion, and Finals MVP. I'm Canadian, and seeing Jamal Murray, a guy I've literally been seen up close to my own eyes since high school, one of my old teammates was his teammate in high school. Seeing the work he puts in and the improvement that he made in his game is incredible. I've been watching Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. since their high school mixtape days, and seeing their games evolve to be on a championship roster is amazing, especially MPJ, because we didn't really, there's another universe where he never really gets the chance to play basketball. Like, you know, his back injuries are well documented. I remember wanting either the Bucks or the Nuggets to select Christian Brown last year, because for reasons like this man, wherever he goes, winning just seems to follow. These guys have a story, and they completed the journey. I think that needs to be celebrated. And the fans of Denver having a team that they can get behind, that's also important. Thanks for watching this video. I've been gone for a while, but I'm still making videos. I'm still working. When I'm not here, trust me, I'm thinking how I'll make this channel better. And I've seen I got new subscribers, new engagement in my last video. I love that. Thank y'all. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon.